top fat loss foods. We're moving on here, people. I've been getting some DMs. I gotta be honest. I'm getting a little bit more popular since I started this show. It's pretty cool. My self-esteem's hanging on by a thread anyway, so I love it when you guys reach out. I'm getting some DMs regarding fat loss foods versus muscle gain foods. Now, they are often the same thing, right? But fat loss foods can sometimes be a little more specific because of the caloric restriction associated with losing weight. So let's first define a fat loss food in my book anyway. This is not anyone else's definition but mine, but you're kind of going to see where I'm coming from anyway. I'm calling a fat loss food in the Charlie Dictionary a food that is calorically responsible, meaning without excess calories for the protein content. I am also going to call a fat loss food a food that helps you with satiety. The less hungry you are, the better. And lastly, a fat loss food is almost always going to be rich in protein. That's the miracle macro. As the more muscle we can maintain during a fat loss phase, the better. We want to be losing our love handles when dropping pounds, not our hard-earned biceps, man. Come on. Protein, of course, is enormously important, not just in building muscle, but also maintaining it. Let's also take a moment to talk about when we're trying to lose fat. Now, we've had a whole segment on fat loss. I'll try to get that little thing to appear that you guys can click on. And it's important to make note that when we're trying to lose fat, of course, we want to be in a caloric deficit for a period of time. And that may vary from person to person, but we don't want to be in a caloric deficit forever. When we eat in deficit for too long, our metabolism slows down. We can get diet fatigue and all kinds of other not so nice, crappy stuff happens. You don't want to be there forever. That's not cool, man. So my recommendation is almost always, unless you have truly an enormous amount of weight to lose, try to be in a caloric deficit for a period of time. Then come back to homeostasis or maintenance mode, get rid of the diet fatigue, get some good weight training in, feel good, restore the glycogen in the muscles, all that stuff. And then if you want to go back into another weight loss phase, that's terrific. You might consider that a diet break. Some people call it that. I just call it kind of common sense. You're much better prepared moving forward. So again, the foods we're going to be talking about. These are some foods that can help you stay in a caloric deficit. These are my preferences and what I might recommend. Check out the fat loss segment, reverse dieting segment to learn more about those diet phases and how you might structure them into your diet. But these are kind of the foods. Gear up, get in the car, strap the kids in, the baby seats like me. We're going on a virtual food shopping trip together. You guys are paying. Where are we heading first? Well, the dairy aisle, of course. Number 1, egg whites. Why egg whites? So bland, right? Well, that's easy. It's very bioavailable protein. It's very low calorically, and they're simply a great way to get a lot of protein without thinking too much. Egg whites can also be very, very satiating. And because we are omitting the yolk, very low in fat, hence calories. Again, you may be thinking, isn't that going to taste bland? No. I would invite you to think of egg whites as almost an agent of a meal, a participant, not the meal itself. I'm not suggesting you just eat egg whites, like a bowl of egg whites, okay? That's kind of torturing. Bad example, I'm sure, but think of flour. You can't make bread without flour, right? Bread's really good, but flour on its own perhaps does not taste terrific. But if you were to combine flour with the right ingredients, you'd have yourself a tasty bread. That's a tasty bread. So where am I going with this? I make high protein pancakes with egg whites. I make high protein French toast with egg whites. I make breakfast and lunch wraps with egg whites. I make frittatas with egg whites. Now, there's a lot you can do here. Not to mention, as we talked about in our protein substitution video, if you eat a few egg yolks a day and you sub out a few yolks for whites, you're getting more protein for less calories, right? You don't have to just introduce a new food. You can make a little change here and there. So all in all, this is not really anything new, but it is something really powerful. It's a powerful tool. Make sure you're utilizing it. Right? As long as you don't have an egg allergy or something like that. You don't hear about that too much. Side note, I also love to bake with egg whites. Every week, we're going to get you guys new recipes, and egg whites, I am sure, will be part of the recipe of the day. So stay tuned for that. Next up, we are still in the dairy aisle. Number 2, Fairlife fat-free, ultra-filtered milk. A lot of F's without being profane. This is another fantastic way to make a very simple substitution in your diet if you like milk or creamer or something like that in your coffee. Look no further than Fairlife. We talk about these guys a lot. More protein, less calories. You're not making any major changes to how you're eating, but the caloric implications can be major. They can make an impact. That's another reason I always suggest small changes gradually versus major dietary changes. It's a lot easier to stick to a change when you kind of barely notice you're making it. You buy something different at the store, you use it in place of something else, you're kind of on your way. I do drink black coffee most of the time, but I do also drink Fairlife in my cold brew sometimes with a Truvio or so. I have it with my Ninja Creamies every single night. He's talking about the CREAMI again, man. I'm going to keep talking about it till you guys buy one. And by golly, come Christmas Eve, when me, the beautiful wife, and the ever adorable kids are leaving cookies for Santa, right? Looking at you, Big Al. You can be sure we're leaving old St. Nick this protein milk because he's carrying like millions of pounds of presents to everyone. And have you done the math? The dude must be crazy jacked. That's not a big round belly. It's a giant set of abdominals. So we got our egg whites, we got our milk. Where are we going next on our dietary adventure? This is like that magic school bus, only with me. And I guess I'm not a teacher. Also, suppose we're not in the school bus. And frankly, there are no kids here. It's nothing like that. Edit it out. Number 3, poultry, you turkey. Why poultry? Well, we can get it ground and we can make tacos or wraps out of it. We can make patties out of it. We could throw an egg or egg white in there, some breadcrumbs. You get like a really good turkey or chicken burger. You throw those on the grill and, you can eat those for a few days. They're really good. They're really tasty. And of course, we always want to have organic poultry if we can. We're going to slightly shy away from red meat during a cut. And we're going to turn to our feathered friends because the fat content in poultry is lower, very high in protein as well. I know I call them feathered friends, even though we're eating them. It's confusing to me too. Again, a lot of protein, a lot less calories. There's a theme here. Protein high, fat low, and carbs. Carbs. Oh, wait. We need some carbs in there. Off to the produce aisle. We must produce. Number 4, sweet potatoes. Loaded with fiber, antioxidants, and vitamin A. Awesome for our immune system as well. Can't do nothing if you're not feeling good. We need carbs on our fat loss diet. We need carbs in our fat loss journey. We need the fuel. We need the fuel to train. We need carbs to recover. And in my opinion, if you listened to our cortisol segment last week, hint, hint, we also need carbs to sleep. So this carb, it's loaded with fiber. It's a complex carbohydrate. And, depending on how you prepare it, its glycemic load can be very low as well. That basically means how it impacts our blood sugar. So it appears boiling it is going to keep that glycemic value the lowest. I think I read something like it was like a 47 and the scales from 0 to 100. So it's pretty right there as a medium glycemic food, which for a carbohydrate is terrific. If you're going to have one at night for dinner, boiled sweet potato for that reason may be great. Let's say you wanted one as part of a post-workout meal. Great choice also. I think you could bake one or have one boiled. That would be fine. I think what's most important is actually to weigh it and know how much of it you're eating. But boiling, again, seems to be a safe bet. I boil mine all the time. I love them. I actually love sweet potatoes so much. I don't really need to put anything on them. I think regular potatoes, I feel like I always need the butter on if I'm going to have one. We go out to the steakhouse or something like that. Sweet potatoes, I'm good just as they are. They are a delicacy of nature, just as the universe intended. Cool thing about sweet potatoes, I also find them to be very filling and satiating. So sweet potatoes on a fat loss diet, yes. I'm checking all the boxes. If you're training hard, even more so. I preach it a lot. Do not be afraid of carbs. Be afraid of people who tell you to be afraid of carbs, and be afraid of Man Bear Pig because he is real. Which brings us to number 5, carb balance or low calorie tortillas. So we started off with egg whites and ultra filtered milk, pretty straightforward dairy, kind of we're still on the health train. Then we went into poultry, hopefully organic. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you might not like that so much, but we're still kind of healthy. Then we went to the produce section. So, still, again, farmed, healthy. Hopefully you got your sweet potatoes without, pesticides, stuff like that. The first 4 are minimally processed at least. But at number 5, I like adding a low-calorie tortilla here. They don't actually have to be low carb. In fact, I'd rather they had more carbs and they kept the fat a little bit lower because, again, we want to keep our calories lower. The reason I'm including them is the tortilla itself has some nutritive value, right? But they're a great vessel to keep things interesting, right? Like taco wraps, vegetable wraps, toast them, breakfast burritos. You can get a nice size wrap, like the carb conscious ones. I'm saying they're carb conscious because that's what they're called. I'm not saying you should be carb conscious. It's like 70 calories. You do a lot with it. I think we've actually baked these things, cut them up with like the pizza roller, and maybe chips with them with, whatever the dip or guac was. You can have fun here. Sometimes losing fat or gaining muscle is just about making it fun. You just think a little bit out of the box. This doesn't have to be a difficult thing that you're like, oh man, I gotta do this. This could be something you enjoy. Another thing I like about the wraps is as long as they're not made with like just white flour and they have fiber, glycemically, they're usually pretty good as well. It's not like you're eating them on their own most of the time. So the protein and the fats, even if you're not eating a ton of fats, that's going to have an impact on the glycemic load as well. It's going to slow it down. You should be fine there. Don't get overly concerned with that, in my opinion. So bottom line, these low calorie options are fine. They're good. And another thing I love to eat on these wraps, often at lunch, is number 6. Applegate organic cold cuts. They've been featured on the show before. This is such a simple one, but boy, is it a powerfully easy one. Just sub out the boar's head stuff you've been having and get some organic Applegate turkey or ham and put it on a low carb wrap. And for a couple of 100 calories, you're good to go. You probably got a ton of protein, get fiber and some carbs in there. It doesn't have to be a big meal, but it's enough to hold you over. Applegate, I talk about a lot. Clean ingredients, obviously organic. They're trying to be environmentally sustainable from what I read as well. I need to look more into that. I wouldn't say to eat any kind of cold cuts all day simply because of the sodium content. And no, I'm not vilifying sodium. A lot of people are, on the internet with their flags attached to their cars, like, don't blame sodium for what sugar did. I'm not saying sodium's evil. I'm not saying cortisol's evil, but like all things, I think moderation is probably a good idea. You don't want a tremendous amount of salt in your diet, especially if you're dealing with blood pressure, that's a concern. That being said, I think these can be a terrific part of your diet, a healthy diet. They taste great. We give them to our kids. And again, I'm not giving nothing to my kids that I don't think is good. I'm sure you're not either. The Black Forest ham is really good. I like that with spicy brown mustard. That's a Charlie favorite. He loves spicy things. Charlie likes his chicken spicy. Number 7, this one comes in a sometimes hard to open package that I kind of have to, my fingers, right? You can throw this in your bag, set it and forget it, and eat it whenever. Jerky! Nah, I'm not making fun of you. Beef jerky. Now, we don't want any kind of beef jerky, right? We don't want all the nitrates. We don't want the extra sugar. We don't want all that crap in there. I'm talking Chomps, and I don't mean the sound. I mean the brand Chomps. Chomps meat sticks are free from artificial preservatives, colors, and flavors. They use real ingredients, all right? They call themselves a paleo type of company. All right, I mean, that's cool with me. If it's minimally processed, free of hormones and delicious, I'm on board. They can, they could be trying to discover fire while they're eating them. That's cool. The beef is 100% grass-fed and finished. The turkey is without antibiotics. I do not think their label is organic, and the word organic encompasses a lot of things. But that being said, I do think they're a great option. I'm always looking for a healthier jerky without the extra crap. I really like Chomps. I throw these in my bag when I'm traveling. Even if I'm in a rush sometimes after a workout, I'll just eat one of these to get some protein in the meantime. I'm not saying you have to have protein within 10 minutes of working out. We've talked about that before. But, sometimes you're hungry after a workout. Eat this. It's good for you. All right? So they can be great in between meals. If you like this sort of thing, it can be a great ally for you in your weight loss journey for sure. Number 8, diet soda. Oh my God, I'm getting deja vu here. We just talked about that. Holy cow. Yes, we're getting into dangerous territory again. People, I'm sure, are turning it off at this point when it comes to these diet drinks. You know how I feel about diet drinks. If you listen to the last segment on artificial sweeteners, my take again is if you want to get your sweet fix, you can comfortably have some artificial sweeteners in a day without going overboard. I say go for it. They help me stick to my eating plan. I enjoy them. I do not have 30 cans of Diet Coke a day. I don't have 50 Truvia packets a day. I also don't eat 45 pounds of lean beef and 59 avocados. It's just extreme stuff. What I like about diet sodas too is I find they actually help me more in between meals. I'm actually much more likely to have one in between the meal than with the meal itself. So that's me. I think the reason is it feels like I'm having something fun. I like the taste. I don't feel bad about it. And hey, it works for me. Think of all the Lamborghinis I could buy if Diet Coke sponsored this show. Which brings us to number 9, Smart Pop. What? Wowie, wow, wow. It seems like you are falling further down the credibility chain here, Charlie. First, we had evil carbohydrates, then diet drinks, and now processed microwavable popcorn. I understand if you're, unsubscribing and you're turning the show off. However, hear me out, if you will. Now, I'm not saying all the ingredients are good. I'm not saying you should eat these things every day. I am saying, though, low calories, it's got fiber, and it's satiating. You have as many calories in a 100-calorie bag of popcorn as you do about a tablespoon of peanut butter. That is not a lot of peanut butter if you've weighed out a tablespoon. I don't know about you, but I'm not satiated eating 1 tablespoon of peanut butter because I'm not a gerbil. One of the reasons is, you eat that much peanut butter in like 8 seconds. A bag of popcorn might be 8 minutes. I don't know. So do I think you should eat processed stuff every day? No, certainly not necessarily. But back to my 90-10 rule. What is it keeping you from eating, right? What is it substituting? If you're finding you're eating what I would call junk food, high calorie, high fat, no fiber, loaded with sugar, trans fats, and you end up craving this crap even more, I would say let's take a step forward towards a better choice before we eliminate every processed thing from our diet, right? Smart Pop, or frankly any microwavable popcorn, is likely not the healthiest thing you can eat, but it may be a lot more beneficial to you, to your health and overall weight loss than a host of other things you're eating now. So Smart Pop, much like diet soda, in my opinion, don't avoid, but don't go crazy. If it keeps you from eating a bag of chips, that's enough for me to give you a good old thumbs up. Okay. On to our last one. Number 10, whole eggs. Wait a second, Charlie. We started this whole thing with egg whites. I thought that was our dairy segment. How could we possibly end with whole eggs? Aren't they more calorically dense, more fat, less protein per gram? Yes, they are, which is why I recommend eating less of them than egg whites, but I still absolutely recommend eating them. Reason being, they check off a few important boxes for me. 1, they do have significant protein. 2, even though we want to be conscious of our fat intake on a weight reduction diet, we certainly do not want to be avoiding fats altogether. It's important for hormonal health, among other things. So not only does the egg yolk in whole eggs contain healthy fats, it does, it also contains some really important soluble nutrients like vitamins A, D, and E. It also contains antioxidants. The healthy fats and egg yolks actually help our bodies absorb these nutrients in the yolk as well. So a healthy DHA-rich omega-3s are in the egg yolk, which is great. But the third reason I incorporate whole eggs in a fat loss diet, in my experience, I find them very satiating. Even just cracking some pepper on a hard-boiled egg, how I usually prefer them during the day, is often enough to keep me happy in between meals. So, yeah, I tricked you. You's a sneaky, sneaky guy, Charlie. A sneaky, sneaky guy. We thought you wasn't going to avoid the egg yolk. You probably thought we were going to avoid the whole eggs, being that we singled out egg whites, but no. I believe whole eggs are a superfood, and they can be incorporated into your diet no matter what your goal is, just as long as you're kind of conscious of the quantity of them. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out this part of the show. Those are my top foods for weight loss phases of dieting. Again, try these. Use some of these things daily. Use some in moderation. Use what works for you. Let me know what works for you. Let me know about your experience with fat loss and your favorite fat loss foods. Let me know if you're going to try any of the ones I suggested today, all right? Let me know, huh?